In this video, we're going to identify some red flags when buying a home. Just like relationships, identifying red flags early can save you a lot of trouble down the road. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video if you find these tips helpful. A home's foundation is literally what everything rests on. Don't overlook these critical signs. 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and cracks in concrete. There are some telltale signs that I look for when I go into a home to see if there are foundation issues. One of the areas where I'll look is I look for diagonal cracks in the brick on the exterior of the home. I will also look at the fascia boards. Is it split at the corners? Even inside the house, we'll look at doorways if they have cracks above them or cracks in the sheetrock. But keep in mind, just because we have cracks doesn't mean we have foundation issues. It just means we may need to look a little bit closer. One of the more common areas that we see that cause foundation issues is going to be either shrubs that are too close to the house or large trees that are too close to the house. For shrubbery, if it's too close to the house and too large to be that close to the house, it can pull moisture out from underneath the home. Same thing with a tree. If you have limbs that are overhanging a house, chances are you have a root system that's going out to the tip of the edge of the limb, and it's going to be pulling moisture out from underneath that slab. You can have a house that is over 50 years old that has never had foundation issues, but you plant shrubbery too close to the house that's going to pull the moisture out, you could have foundation issues within a year or two. So make sure that your shrubbery is not too close to the house. Another way that we can mitigate some foundation issues, if we're having an extremely hot summer, you can take a soaker hose and put it around the outside edge of the slab of your house and turn it on for a couple hours each day. Now be careful, you do not want to create pooling water around it, but a little extra moisture will go a long ways. Water damage. It's like an iceberg. What you see is just a small portion of what could be lurking below the surface. When I'm doing a walkthrough on a home, whether we're about to do a pre-listing on it or I'm showing it to a client, I'm looking for water stains. And that's gonna be water stains in the ceiling, water stains on the wall, baseboards, and even in the flooring. As a homeowner, it's really important for you to disclose any water damage that you've had at the property. Disclosing water damage is not that bad. We just need to tell people how we fixed it. Let's say we identify a stain in a home. Once we ask a couple of questions to figure out what caused the stain, there's usually some context clues which led to that stain occurring. And that's one of the areas that we want to make sure it gets resolved during the inspection process. So doing a thorough look or walk around to that house and making sure that inspector knows these are some areas of concern for you that we want you to take an even closer look. Because stains, they can identify a big problem, or it could be no problem at all because it's already been resolved. Now, just to be clear, just because we have a water stain doesn't mean there's a big issue, but it does mean we need to do some investigating. So asking the homeowner about what led to this stain, what was done to remedy it, what caused it, those are some key questions we need to start asking so that we know what next step we need to take to ensure that we're comfortable with the house that we have in front of us. There's some things during the inspection process that are really hard to test or figure out if there's a problem that's going on. When a homeowner's moved out of that house and they unhook the washing machine, sometimes we find that valves are leaky and it may not result in something that is very apparent during the inspection. There was a case where we had not too long ago, the seller moved out. The valve had become loose when they were turning off the washing machine. Now, there was no evidence of a leak when they turned it off, but apparently that valve had gotten loose on the pipe in the wall. And when they turned everything off, everything looked great. But when we did our final walkthrough, luckily for us, the air was not on in the house and it was very humid. And when we walked into the room that was behind the laundry room, there was just this big pungent smell. Had we not done the walkthrough or had the air not even been turned on at that point, we would have never known that that leak would have been there before closing. Luckily, it got identified and we were able to get everything fixed and taken care of. This is why it's important to take your time and look at the home thoroughly and inspect for any sorts of water damage and ask those questions and get those professionals involved so that you can be comfortable in the house that you purchase. The roof over your head should be rock solid. Here's a few things you need to look for when you're buying a home. As you're walking around the house looking at the exterior of the home, look up at the roof. Do all the shingles look like they're in a line with one another? You want to make sure that the roof is not missing any shingles. Something else to look for, if you're looking at that roof on a sunny day and it looks like it's shimmering a little bit, that may be a tell sign that the roof has got a lot of excess age and substantial granular loss, because that could be the fiberglass that you're seeing shimmering in the sunlight. And why is this so important for us to focus so much on the roof? Well, really, because if that roof starts leaking, that's going to affect so many other components within a house. The roof is the single most expensive item that is perishable on a house. A roof, just like anything else in your house, it does need to be maintained. You always want to make sure that your roof is clear of debris. A lot of times in the valleys, pine straw leaves can build up, and that can actually cause leaks to occur even on a really good roof. So keep that roof clean. Something else to be aware of, one of the leading causes for a roof to deteriorate much quicker is excess heat in the attic. So here's a little hack or something you need to know. If you're having new insulation put in the attic, make sure you did not do anything to affect the ventilation of the roof. You could be hurting yourself instead of helping yourself by adding insulation to the house. Insulation is good, but clogging up the vents so that the roof can breathe is bad. If you end up hiring a roofer that doesn't stand behind their work or is not experienced or just offer the quality that's needed, you could have things as far as shingles slipping. You could have things installed wrong that's going to cause leaks, maybe not right at first, but down the road. And when you hire that reputable person, if there's a problem that happens, they're going to be there to take care of it. Electrical issues can be shocking, quite literally. Here's a few things you need to know before you buy. The electrical system is an area that we want to make sure that we're hyper-focused on. It's been my experience in our area, we're going to have homes that are going to have all different types of electrical systems in it. And I'm in no way trying to say that I'm an electrician, but here's some of the things that people commonly run into. GFCI outlets are one of the areas that come up common on home inspections. You need to have these outlets within 6 feet of a water source. We don't want that curling iron falling into the tub and somebody get electrocuted. Grounded wiring is another one that comes up in most home inspections. The ground wire is supposed to prevent a large electrical surge like lightning from coming and blowing up an appliance and get discharged into the actual ground. Well, years ago when we had just the 2-prong outlets, that was an ungrounded system. It's still up to code to this day as far as I'm aware. You can use it, but what happened is when the manufacturer started going to a grounded electrical system, they went to that 3-prong. Well, people just started updating the plugs and not the wiring. So you'll have a lot of 3-prong outlets in a house where it was supposed to be just a 2-prong. That's something you need to be aware of so that you can make sure you're not plugging in really expensive electronics. The house gets struck by lightning and you end up ruining a nice piece of electronics. Another big thing that a lot of people focus on, and that's going to be knob and tube wiring. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I do know that it's not up to code nowadays, and most insurance companies will not write a policy if the house still has live knob and tube wiring in it. So that's something that you really need to have an actual electrician look at for you and give you an estimate on what it would cost to have that replaced. That's a huge safety item. Making sure you clearly understand the electrical system and its impact on the home is very important. The last thing we want is for someone to get hurt or even a catastrophic fire to occur. Don't let plumbing problems drain your wallet. Here's a few things you need to focus on. With plumbing, it's a lot like the electrical system. It's something that really can have a major impact, and it's not something that we get to see the whole system in front of us. A lot of it is going to be in the walls or in the attic slab or in the ground. So knowing some of the key telltale signs to know when we need to check a little further is going to be very important. One of the areas that we want to talk about is going to be the sewer system, slow drains. Just because you have a slow drain doesn't mean you have a clog in the whole sewer discharge, but it does mean that we need to kind of figure some things out. I always recommend for a slow drain that people look at hiring a plumber to potentially run a camera down the system. We still have a lot of homes in our area with clay pipes, and it's easy for that stuff to get to collapse or even have root balls growing in the sewer pipe. Even with PVC, we still have that happen. So running a camera down is always advisable. Low water pressure. Low water pressure could mean that either we have a bad faucet, or even more, we could have corroded pipes that have a buildup over time, and there's just low water pressure throughout the whole entire house. Definitely something we want to take a look at. Leaks, which we've talked about leaks before, but leaks, one leak can lead to major problems. You don't ever want to have a leak happen for an extended period of time. If you see something leaking, fix it as fast as you can. It will cause a ton of damage if it goes undone. And the last thing on plumbing I want you to focus on, if the house has been vacant for a long period of time, I would want to make sure that you fill all of the sewer pipes up, let water run for a long time. I mean, I would even say for at least an hour, just to make sure the system is operating like it should. With pipes that have been empty or dry for quite some time, it can take a good bit of water to fill everything up. And I'd want to make sure that we took that extra step to make sure everything's flowing like it should. Poor drainage can lead to a flood of problems. Here's some of the warning signs. The biggest one is going to be due to erosion. You could be losing a lot of your yard if you don't have properly drained yard. Also, poor drainage can lead to foundation issues. You know, the foundation is the rock of which our house sits on. And if we have water pooling around the house, it potentially is going to cause foundation issues. Also, poor drainage leads to less functionality of your whole yard. Another thing to note, you don't have to be in a flood zone for your house to flood. A poorly drained yard in a heavy rain can cause your house to flood. There's a term that we use in real estate, and it's called a negative grade. That means that the ground outside of your home drains back towards the house. If this is how your property looks, I mean, you need to really focus on how you want that water to flow around your house. Even if your house is built up a little off the ground, you don't want water running to that slab and use the slab to deter the water around. We need all the water to be diverted away from the house. Let's talk about the landscaping and drainage. If you have that landscaping where it's a flower bed or just a rock garden, if it's full all the way up to the brick of the house and water starts running against that brick, chances are you're going to get water in the house. We want to see at least 2 inches of the slab for all your landscaping needs. Another technique that is used commonly are French drains. If you have a backyard that's holding water and you're having a tough time getting it to divert around the house, or you have areas that are pooling and there's no good way to fix it, you can put a French drain in that will divert the water, or actually take the water from the one spot you need it and push it to an area you want it to be discharged from. These sometimes can be done yourself, or in some cases, it's better to hire a professional to take care of that for you. Remember, drainage issues sometimes can be connected, and they all have an impact on the overall property. We want to make sure we keep our foundation solid, so keeping water away from the house is going to be good. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, being aware of these red flags can help you save a lot of money when buying your next home. If you have any questions or would like tailored advice based on your needs, feel free to reach out, drop a comment below, or just give us a call directly. Until next time, I'm Brian, wishing you all the best in your home buying journey. See you soon.